Hello, my name is Jennifer Betts. I have been in the scrap industry about a decade and a half, working at scrapyards, steel mills, and trading companies. At Argus Media, I am the VP of Business Development, helping companies increase their knowledge of the metals industry through news, metal pricing, and analytical tools. So let's talk ferrous. First, iron on the periodic table is Fe. The adjective is ferrous. Essentially, anything with iron in it is called ferrous. Anything without iron is called non-ferrous, not iron. So let's talk P&S, plate and structural. It is exactly what it sounds like. It is plate and it is coming from structural sources. So plate and structural steel typically comes in the form of an I-beam or thick plate. So plate is usually over a 1/2 inch thick. This is one of the higher grades of steel just because it recovers better in the furnace. So there's some upgrade potentials. Since this is one of the higher grades of the ferrous material that's out there, you can usually upgrade it by size and or chemistry. So typically the sizing is 5 foot by 2 foot. So you should be no longer than 5 feet and no wider than 2 foot. However, it's not uncommon to see 3 foot or 4 foot specs. So you're going to need to check with your local and regional consumers on their sizing specs. Some foundries will issue a premium for 1, possibly 2 foot specs, usually with lower residual chemistry, so not a lot of extra elements in there. So why does the size matter, especially to the consumer? It's usually indicative of the size of their furnace. So larger mills will have larger furnaces and just therefore the opening will be easier for them to handle the larger scrap. Now small foundries are going to have smaller furnaces, hence why they're going to only want 1 to 2 foot material. The ISRI definition for the plate and structural 5 foot and under is cut structural and plate scrap. It's 5 foot and under, clean, open hearth steel plate, structural shapes, crop ends, shearings, or broken steel tires. Dimensions not less than 1/4 inch thick and not over 5 foot in length and 18 inches in width. So that's something else that you should definitely check with your local or regional consumers, is that in the industry, we typically say 5 foot by 2 foot, but most spec sheets are actually going to say 5 foot by 18 inches. And that's usually to make sure that the scrap yards are going to have a little bit of a buffer to make sure that they really stay within a smaller size. You're going to need to, again, check with your consumer. Continuing with the ISRI definition, lastly, on the chemistry side, the phosphorus or sulfur should not be over 0.05%. Lastly, where does this material actually come from? So think about construction projects, think about demolition, think bridges, high rises, commercial buildings. This is where you're going to find the plate and structural, and then you'll be able to either process on site at that demolition construction site, or you're going to need to transport the material back to the scrapyard process before loading up into truck, rail cars, or barges. Thank you.